bell, and that's hit the gavel. So we'll go on from there. We welcome you this evening to our city council meeting. And on the 11th and 10th day of May of 2022. We'll begin our meeting tonight by asking Council Member Dalpas to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and give us an invocation or thought. We'll leave that up to him at his.
So I'm going to give a thought this time. I've been thinking about the conflict in Ukraine that's going on right now, and it hasn't got a lot of, it just seems like hasn't got a lot of attention like it first did when it first started up. And just kind of mindful of what people are going through out in the world right now. You know, we're kind of in our little bubble in North Ogden, and we don't have a lot of struggles that are near what other people are dealing with in the world. And so just to kind of keep those people in your hearts, keep them in your thoughts and possibly in your prayers. And if you have a small way that you can donate to help some of the causes that are going on over there, I would encourage that, you know, whether it's UNICEF or the Red Cross or something like that. But anyway, that's my thought, and I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Dalpas. Tonight we have a brief presentation from Mr. Rod Layton, who's the Executive Director of the Children's Justice Center. Rod has been with us before, but we thought it might be nice to get an update on some of the decisions that have been made. So Rod, you want to take a few minutes? Update us?
I'll be brief and take a few minutes. You all met with me a lot of times. I appreciate that, Mayor and Peruvian Council. Some exciting stuff the last few weeks. So we were able to finally come to a resolution on who will actually own this building. That's been a giant hurdle. As you well know, we have the nonprofit side of the Children's Justice Center, and then we have the government side, which is Weaver County. We just felt it was a lot of advantages to have Weaver County own the building, have the nonprofit side just support and do the things that they were really created to do under Reed Richards and how he created this whole program. And so a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, we finally got a vote from the Friends Board. They made a motion and voted that the Weaver County will own the building. So that jumped us forward. We are now preparing all the interlocal agreements, getting those out to the cities on those that have committed to help us with the funding. We have moved forward with the property. We're working closely with the school district. It looks like there is a way that they can transfer that property over to us. In a few things we have to do. We have to get an evaluation on the property and assessment of what that's worth, and then it's complicated. So I got all those attorneys working on it, and they're coming up with a satisfactory way to satisfy the state auditors that this property is being used for what it was intended to be used for, and it's not. It will be a big advantage to the community, to the school district, to the cities, and I think we're going to be able to resolve that and get that done in the next, hopefully, month or two. The drawings are just about done. We're working on the conceptual drawings are all done. We're now into the phase of doing the 3D drawings, so you can kind of see what the building will look like. Zoning was all passed. This a couple of weeks ago, the city of Ogden passed the zoning, so that's off and running and done. They are very much on board with that as well. So we've made a lot of progress in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and now we're hoping to get all the paperwork done so that we can actually look at getting a contractor on board and start looking and designing the hard parts now. Now the hard work starts as far as getting all the things done with the contractor. So that will eventually be put out on an RFP to contractors, and then we'll be looking at bids, which is the best thing ever that Weaver County is taking us over, because we just didn't have the ability to do that. So they'll be overseeing the project, and all the bids and all the things we need to do, so. Questions from the council on where we're at? I talked to the attorney this morning and he said those interlocals should be done shortly and then we can get those to the cities. And I think some cities are waiting for those and some cities are fine just to make their contribution now and wait for it to come later. So it doesn't matter either way to the county on how that happens. It may to the cities though, so I would like to get them done and get them out to you guys on that part of it.
So Rod, just a couple of questions. Do you feel like you still have a major donor or two out there that's willing to make some substantial contributions?
We do, and like I mentioned in other meetings, it's really hard to get those major contributors to come forward until they see that this project is going to happen. They want to make sure that if they donate money, that this is off and running. So we've been hesitant to go out and really contact some big donors until we know that the hole's going to be dug. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is one of those that's going to donate substantially to it. But they're like, when we see the backhoe over there, the excavator, then we'll talk. Because oftentimes you'll see projects that are on paper and then people donate money and it never happens. And so there's right now about $4 million. So with the ARPA funding and other things with our building, and we'll be at 4 million very quickly. We'll get that money. So we're $1.5 million away once we get that in place. So
the 4 million would build a garage. What about the rest of it?
Yeah, I say the 4 million will get our 2 floors. Yeah, that's what we're thinking. And that's actually one of the things we have been working on is, as you well know, we own a building at 2408 Van Buren. And there was some discussion on if a nonprofit organization could sell that building and then give it to a county government like that. Is that legal? Can they do that? So we've had attorneys working on that and they finally came, since both are non-taxpayers, that a nonprofit can sell a property and give the money to, say, Weaver County. So that's been a month worth of work trying to get an answer to that question on if they can do that. Once they do that, then the county cannot give that back to a nonprofit. That's the part. So nonprofit was a little bit hesitant. We give $1.5 million. What's our guarantee that that money will be used for a CJC? So we're going to put some deed restrictions in that this will always be used for a CJC, that money. And if we ever move for some reason, 25 years from now, that money has to follow. It has to go to the next building, which we hope we don't have to do this again for a few years. But that was a major legal thing that we had to overcome, but that's been resolved.
Council, any questions for Ron? Councilman Galvin?
Just a comment, I know a few of us city councilors were able to come and visit you and get a tour of the current facility, and I felt like that was really important to see it with my own eyes, what you guys were dealing with not very suitable, the not very suitable building that it is right now, even though it's a beautiful historic
Yes.
building for that.
Yep.
But for its purpose, I just felt like, your mission in getting this new building done definitely has a big need. So I just wanted to add that.
And we appreciate you being there. That you're the only city that did that. So we very much appreciated that, and we hope that when this building is completed, that we will invite city councils, mayors to come to the building and sit, and we'll talk about what we do and get the cities more involved in the CJCs. It's your kids that are coming there, so you need to. Hopefully we'll do a better job of blending that in.
So you don't regret letting the three of us in, huh?
Yeah, that's yeah, but I will say it's been a pleasure working with North Ogden. I have not got this warm reception like this from all of the cities, and so it's been absolutely a pleasure to work with this council, with Mayor Ruby. It is a hard sell, and we understand money is tight, and so we very much appreciate your support on this, because it's not it hasn't been this smooth road all the way along, which we didn't expect it to be, but it's been great working with you guys.
Yeah, I think you made a very important comment. These are our kids. Sometimes we want to believe that these things don't go on in our little city here. But I think Chief and your officers can tell you, we've got plenty of problems in our city dealing with these type of issues. And Chief, I think you said this is one of the great resources you and your officers have to help solve some of these crimes and help these kids get back on track. So did I interpret that right?
It's almost a necessity for successful prosecution.
Any other questions before we let Rod go? Rod, thank you so much, and we'll be watching for your interlocal agreement, and then we'll hold the council to see what they'd like to do.
Okay, we'll get that to you.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you so much.
Be safe. All right, council, you've had a chance hopefully to look at tonight's packet. We now call for any conflict of interest that need to be disclosed, if any. Are there any? Doesn't look like there are any. So we will now move on to item number 4 on our consent agenda, which would be the action to consider approving the March 29th, 2022 City Council meeting minutes. For those of you who've had a chance to read through those minutes, any corrections? Great job, Recorder's Office. Looks like no comments. If there aren't any, I would then be looking for a motion to approve those minutes as previously referenced. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I move that we approve March 29th, 2022 City Council meeting minutes.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Severing. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Swanson. Any further discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like the motion passes unanimously. We'll now move on to our active agenda. First, we'll seek comments from the public. Anything they'd like to bring to our attention, whether it's a budget item or whatever they may have. I would encourage you, if you have a comment, to come up here to the podium. Please state your name, and if you're a resident of North Ogden, and if you would be kind enough to limit your comments to a maximum 5 minutes, I'd appreciate it.
I think I can do that. My name's Eric Johnston. I am a North Ogden resident, just within the last probably 6 to 7 months. So great city we have here, but I wanted to thank you guys for your time tonight. One thing what I wanted to propose was currently the setbacks for swimming pools in North Ogden are 10 feet. I have an approved permit from North Ogden City to put in a pool, but apparently the pool will not fit with the current setbacks that I have. I'm requesting to see if I can get an exception or possibly reduce the setbacks to 6 feet. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go back to re-engineer everything and go repurchase everything as well as loose schedule and whatnot. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, and just was hoping that the council would hear me out on that. So spoke with Mr. Hess. He said it was probably this was the best place to come approach you guys. So
Mr. Call, would you like to explain the process that would need to take place to accommodate that request?
So it would take an ordinance change, council and Eric Johnson, okay. And that would be something that goes to the planning commission and then comes to the council for approval, and your thoughts and feelings, but it probably would be good. Usually, I think, if I remember right, the 10 feet is, I don't know if it's an engineering standard or something, but it's tied, I believe, into the building code of why there's a distance requirement, and especially on the hill. We run into some issues there. We did have someone that we had to they had dug their hole and we had to make them move the pool, but I can double check on that and get you an email from the building department and the engineering department on if that's okay, distance wise, to move it, reduce it that 4 feet.
So Mr. Johnson's first approach would be to probably work with Scott or the planning department, go to the planning commission,
which would forward a recommendation to us in regards to the potential ordinance change.
Okay,
Just want to clarify, just because you go to the planning commission, we've had some feel that that is the body of approval. They simply make recommendations to the council. Don't want to be discouraging in any way, but variances are sometimes difficult to get. But we do have an open mind and are willing to listen.
I appreciate that.
Okay,
Thank you for your time.
thank you.
Hello, Council. My name is Madeline Robles. I am not a North Ogden resident. Unfortunately, I wish I could live here. I'm just barely moving here, but I just wanted to introduce you to me. I believe that before I make asks, I need to tell you who I am, but just letting you know, I am the new Weaver Communities That Care Coordinator. We have emailed back and forth, Councilman Swanson. But otherwise, I really just want you guys to know that I exist. And if you ever see me,
Not just an email.
yeah, I'm not just somebody who's gonna email, I'll show up. We want to be a partner. Previously, I think you've seen mostly our youth council, and so you'll continue to see those amazing youth. They will probably be the people I usually put at this microphone because I believe their voices should be heard over mine. But anyway, I just want you to know I exist, and that's it. Thank you for your time.
And we're glad you exist.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate the youth council and what they do. So I think we had some good interaction with them and hope to continue. So
Yeah.
good luck to you.
Thank you.
And there's lots of places, if you can find a place to live out here. we'd love to have you.
I work in public service and the economy's changed quite a bit, so I'm not sure. I'm gonna work my way up to be able to live in a place like this, but appreciate you all.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Gina Frederick. I live at 1713 North, 875 East. On the recent accessory building setbacks that you just revised, I have a 2,400 square foot building in my side yard, accessory building. And now they're adding on to it. I got in touch with John and he said, yes, they can do that. So I just want to know, like, how big can this accessory building get in my side yard? He's doing an addition to it right now. I called, he does not have a permit to do that, but I feel like he can just keep building and then ask for forgiveness later. I don't know. I'm just wondering, like, how big can an accessory building be now?
Well, it's dependent on the lot size. I wish Scott was here to maybe give you.
It's just a little under an acre lot. But what I'm saying is 2,400 square feet, you had that 60-foot setback. Now that's gone. So does that mean that this building can just take up clear like, can it be 4,800 square feet? Like, how big can this get? And then also, they're running a business out of the accessory building without a license.
That's definitely a problem. We have those who are in charge of code enforcement with us tonight, so I'm sure they could drop by and garner some additional information. I see in a crowd they're writing that down, so
Okay.
surely look into that. John, do you have I think the setback was reduced to 20 feet.
So there used to be a setback and then also a distance from neighboring buildings. And that distance from neighboring buildings was eliminated. And the standard for size is 25% of the backyard can be full or filled with accessory buildings. And I actually did a calculation on this one, and it, in theory, could get up to 4,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Just under that is kind of the measurement, the rough measurements that GeoGizmo gave me. And that's council based on that, the last time we changed it.
It's just that we're in a little teeny tiny subdivision. There's like 11 homes that surrounded us, and this thing is bigger or getting bigger than any of the homes that I just feel like it's devaluating our homes. Like if we wanted to sell a home and someone comes and they're like, what is that? Oh, no. Okay, well, that you answered my question. So let's hope that the city won't pass it to get to become 4,000 square feet.
I believe that's already passed. I think that is the ordinance that's in place today.
It's kind of sad in a residential area. I mean, I could see it like, you know, in a business district, but in a little tiny cul-de-sac, it's hard to have the Pepsi plant in your side yard.
So we'll surely look into the business portion of that.
And also the building permit. He does not have a building permit to add on to it. So, but I hope that maybe you would reconsider what you just passed, because that's crazy that someone can have a 4,000 square foot accessory building on a little under an acre, and they also have, you know, a home. So it's taking up all of the space.
Can you repeat the address, please?
It's their address is 1721 North, 875 East. Thanks.
Thank you. John, do we have anyone online this evening that would like to make a comment?
No raised hands at this time.
Step forward, sir. State your name, address.
Okay, my name is Mike Dussault. I lived here for 31.5 years. I live on 575 East. I would like to ask some questions. Last time I'll tell you, this is approximately after Labor Day in 2018. I went to the town hall and I asked Annette Spendlove, what happens to the 6% city tax you charge on the gas bill, the 6% city tax you charge on the electric bill, and the 1% tax, which now I think is more, on the phone bill? And remember, this is 2018. And I says, approximately how much money do you get from that a year? And she told me approximately, she didn't know, but another lady was there. And she says, just for those three taxes, we get estimated in 2018, $1 million. Another thing that I think was a little bit crazy, I know Weber County a few years ago raised the sales tax on items that are not food items from 6.85% to 7.25%. Like if you buy toilet paper, cat food, or something that's not, you're gonna eat, and you not cook it yourself, the tax on those things is 3%. And I noticed for quite a long time, more than just a few months, the Smith store right here was charging 6.85% sales tax. And if you bought the same thing across the street at Walgreens, they had already changed it to 7.25. So remember, this is 2018. I thought that was something funny going on. And another thing, the chief or Mr. Lieutenant Hines can tell you this has nothing to do with the government here. I understand from some of the police that June or July last year, they ordered 40 caliber pistol bullets for their pistols. And I said to the person who was Lieutenant Hines, a very good guy, I said, when the police department or armed guards want to buy bullets for themselves, can't they buy it from the manufacturer? And he says, no, we have to buy it from a distributor. And the distributor was in Salt Lake. And I understand that just within the past month or two, they finally got some of the bullets they ordered. Now, it's pretty pathetic when people in other parts of the country, I'm not an anti-gun person or anything by any means. It's pretty pathetic when people who are just regular citizens that live in other parts of the country can go to the sporting goods store and buy any kind of bullet they want without a problem. But police have to go through a distributor and wait almost a year to get the bullets. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
I'm Ashdown. I live in North Ogden. I know you've all used me. To answer this man's question, my husband goes skeet shooting and he cannot just go to the store and buy bullets or shotgun shells or 22s or whatever. They're just not available right now. It's not an easy thing to go and just pick up. I sent you an email with some concerns about recycling and I just wanted to expand a little bit. I don't know a lot about it, but what little bit I've looked into, things are still not being recycled well. And the specific companies that we go with, depending on who you talk to, one person says, yes, we recycle that. The other owner says, we can. And if you ask specifically, that's the answer that you get, we can, but not whether or not the stuff is actually being recycled. And my next problem is, and I know you talked about education, but my next problem is if we have the boxes, dumpsters, whatever they're called, over by the old city shop, and we have to have a camera there because people are putting things in there that they're not supposed to. My understanding is that it takes one recycling garbage can with a piece of contaminated something in it, then that whole truck full just goes to the dump. Those are my concerns with restarting recycling. Those who are really interested and really want to, I think the dumpsters are great, but until the dumpsters can be maintained in a way that we don't have to worry about having a camera there, I'm not sure that bringing it back to the homes and charging more for something that is going to end up in the garbage is the best thing to do. Thank you.
I'll take another minute or two.
Yes. I wasn't going to say any more, but because this lady was talking about recycling, I'll tell you, a few years ago, I saved over 800 pounds of aluminum cans from beer that I drink, from where I do janitor work at the IRS, from garbage cans by the bus stop. And this was 2 or 3 years ago. I got 34 cents a pound. I got just over $300 for the cans. Now I stopped saving the cans, but now the aluminum, the last time I called, the Bloom recyclers over in West Ogden, a few weeks ago, it was 76 cents a pound. Now it's 70 cents a pound. And the thing is, as far as I can know from talking to different people, the only thing that they recycle in Utah is cardboard. And I do janitor work at the IRS for a cleaning company, and they don't recycle anything except the classified paper, which my company grinds into shreds and bales it. All the garbage and cans and cardboard go into a big compactor, which costs quite a bit of money each week for the people to compact. And I think one of the reasons is because the location of Utah, this has nothing to do with government or religion or anything, it has to do with geography. Because the location of the state, if the people buy the aluminum cans, I understand they have to ship it to some other area to get melted. And the transportation costs are up. And you know how it is. Because I used to work with some recycled people, elderly people who had their own recycling thing back in New York. And New York and most of the places and the countries I was at in the Far East, they recycle way more stuff than they do here. Because nobody wants to have a dump in their backyard. But I will tell you, the price that they charge here for garbage pickup is like peanuts compared to what they charge in New York. And I'm not talking about New York City. I used to live in a little tiny town 100 miles north of New York with less than 1,000 people. And it's still like that. There you have to separate the cardboard, the glass, the paper for just the regular man to pick up. And there was a big story in National Geographic several times about why some of these countries don't want to take the stuff from the United States. The value has gone down, and also the working conditions of the people in China and Africa and where some of this stuff goes on, they're subject to very hazardous conditions and they don't want to do it. And another reason is, I can tell you this because I've seen people do this in the neighborhood. people mix too much garbage in the recycling can if the recycling can has room in it. And like the lady says, if you have some stuff that shouldn't be in the recycling thing, the people will reject it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments this evening? All right, we thank you for your comments. We'll then move on to item number 6 on our agenda. Tonight, we'll be talking about our tentative budget. Presenter will be Jamie Jones, who's our finance director. We will be having a public hearing. So I would ask if you have some suggestions, there's some comments you'd like to make, that you take that opportunity. We surely want to be totally transparent here in our budget. So Jamie will be going into some detail, but I would just remind you, this is a tentative budget that basically has to be approved and must be balanced. This does not mean this is the final budget. I think there's still a lot of things that need further discussion and investigation. So this budget could change significantly between now and when it's finalized. But I think one of the things we want to concentrate on tonight in our spirit of transparency is to talk about the revenue sources and what it would take to fund this particular budget. We have taken a little bit of a different process this year. We used the revenues we would have based upon our estimates and allocated those out to departments and asked each department to stay within an allocated amount. Someone once said that expenses have to be paid out of revenues. So we need to keep that in mind. I would also just remind the public that each council member has been given specific assignments and has been asked to work closely with the department heads to help them in their budgeting process. And I believe the council has followed that request and done some very good work. So I hope they're all up for questions tonight during the public meeting on the budgets of their respective departments. So with that, Jamie, you have anything to say before we go into the public meeting? Would you like to go through your information so the public would have some idea on maybe what's happening and questions to be asked?
Yes, please, thank you. You were doing so well, I just thought maybe you didn't in a row. All right.
You tried to get me last time when you said, so what is the budget, Mayor?
I do what I can. Just want to add a couple more thoughts to what the mayor said. We won't be receiving the certified tax rate until just before June 8th. And so I think my staff report said that we'll have a meeting in July, but really it's supposed to be June to talk about that. And then kind of have a final decision on how we're going to proceed forward in June.
Jamie, for those that might not be familiar with that term, certified tax rate.
For the property tax
Yeah,
rate.
could you just give just a brief, or maybe we have a resident expert in property taxes,
Yeah, we do.
Councilman Swanson, if you prefer to have him explain how property taxes work. What's your like?
Sure.
Okay, Councilmember Swanson, our resident expert on property taxes. You want to give the public a brief overview of how that works in regards to valuations and tax rate?
Are you using broadheads or target tips tonight?
Well, we're using the shotgun approach tonight.
Well, just in general, all of us know that our homes have a certain value. County gives us a discount. And on that discounted rate, we pay a property tax. We have basically what I call a hold harmless system here in the state of Utah. What that means is if you have 100 homes that produce $1,000 in property taxes, next year, as home values goes up, the county will reduce property tax rate so that those 100 homes still produce roughly $1,000 in property taxes. If a city decides to, and it's all based on your valuation, right? The county does a valuation every year of a certain portion of the county, applies that to the entire county. And And they decide what they say the market value of your home is, and then from that is calculated the assessed value of your home. If a city decides to maintain their current, so say we have a 10% tax rate this year, and next year we decide we're going to keep it at that 10% and not allow the county to drop it, because your home value goes up, the amount of taxes that you'll pay also will rise. And the county, the state actually requires us to have a truth and taxation hearing, because you will end up paying more taxes even though the rate has not changed. That's likely what we're going to be doing this year, is either maintaining or accepting a rate that is higher than what the county, where the county would set it. And we'll get into all that as we go through the numbers. That, in a very rough nutshell, is how property taxes are calculated. One of the big issues that we're dealing with right now is that housing prices are skyrocketing. And as those valuations go up, so do our property taxes. And I say our because mine goes up, every council member's goes up, the mayor's goes up, all of our staff members that live here, all of you that live here, all of our taxes are going up. It's the same process that's used by the school districts, the fire district, the library board, the sewer, all of the taxing entities use this same process. And so if you look at your tax bill, your property tax bill, typically, if you have a property tax bill of say around $4,000 that you pay every year, about 325 to 350 of that is actual North Ogden city taxes. The rest of it goes to other entities. So when you hear a 20% tax increase here in North Ogden, whether that again be from maintaining the rate or we've actually increased the rate, you can calculate that 20% based on your $350 that you're actually paying to North Ogden. It wouldn't be 20% on the entire $4,000 bill, unless all the other entities decided to do the same.
Which many of them are.
They are.
So just to clarify, when Jen used the term certified tax rate,
that's the rate that comes from the
will
county.
Give us to keep the dollars the same.
That's correct.
So the rate could be lower to keep the dollars the same.
That's correct.
I did a quick and dirty calculation. I took the amount of property taxes we receive, didn't have the breakdown between commercial and residential. But based upon the number of homes we have in the city, the average North Ogden residents pays $268 to the city for taxes. That's the average. Now, some less, some definitely more.
And that average, if we were to go just to our neighbor to the south, city of Ogden, that average is closer to $500 per home. Almost double what we pay here in North Ogden. And ask some of those that have had recent police experiences that I'm aware of a story that just here in the last few weeks, month, the burglary.
I'm not sure the exact time frame.
But here in the not too recent past, an individual was burglarized, their vehicle was burglarized. They contacted Ogden Police and the response was, well, we have an online form for you to fill out. And that will be the record of your burglary. No officer was sent out. Nobody comes out to take a report. And they're paying almost twice what we do. We have great services for the amount of property taxes that we collect.
Okay, Jamie, you're off the hook and explain.
How was that for a nutshell presentation?
Okay, that's fantastic.
Very good, very good. Jamie, continue on.
All right, so, gosh, what else can all right, so for the general fund, we are proposing a $9.6 million budget. So with the property tax rate, we are projecting a 3% growth and a 7% inflation rate, which would equal to about $220,000 property tax increase to the general fund, which these are all estimates, which we're guessing is about $20 a year per household. And with that, the general fund expenditures, depending on, let me start over. So with the expenditures, so last week, I sent out a budget that where we were $308,000 underfunded. And this week, during last week's discussion, it was talked about unfunding depreciation. We've heard that term here in the last month or so. See what it would look like if we took that out. And so I sent out a new budget, and it still shows that we are still $73,000 underfunded. I'm gonna leave that right there. I have some other detail on that, but I want to go through the whole budget first before we circle back around to.
Jamie, on that depreciation,
Yes,
is that removing it completely or
That is
spreading it
removing
over
it.
several years?
that is removing it 100%. If we were to take a quarter of it, we would still be about 100 grand.
Thank you.
Councilman, if I could put my 2 cents worth in that,
You can put 3 in if you'd like.
I might do that. I'm a little bit opposed to eliminating all of it because it's a reality, and then in essence, we just kick it down the road instead of dealing with it. So I've expressed my opinion. That'll be up to you as the council what you want to do, but it doesn't solve the problem. We could surely do it over a period of time, but I think eliminating it in its entirety just makes us deal with a problem that could be bigger even next year. Just my take.
Thank you. All right, so quickly moving to capital projects. This budget consists of a $13 million budget. It does include the public safety building, park replacements of the playground for Lowman View Park, Wadman Park. We also have some grant obligations for other trailhead improvements, the parking lot behind the senior center, and then also to close out the 400 East Road project. In the water fund, our operating budget is about 2.4 million. Our capital projects budget in that department is about 5.8 million, which 2.4, that is the ARPA money. We're looking to build a 2 million gallon water tank and then replace some water lines within the city, as well as do some other PRB station projects. We're proposing a new position. And with that, within the operating budget, we do have a $78,000 shortfall, which we are proposing a $1 a month increase, which the current rate is $16, so that would increase it to $17 per month. Sure, yes, $17 per month. In the sewer fund, we have an operating budget of 2.3 million. We have a capital projects budget total of 425,000, which includes that sewer lining project that we've been doing for several years now. Some manhole projects, and then some other equipment. Within this fund, we have a Central Weaver Sewer Improvement District increase pass along of 140,000. However, we are just proposing a 80 cents a month increase because last year we increased the rate and shouldn't have increased it as much as we did. The 140,000 was going to be about $1.70. But because of last year's increase that we did, we were just looking at 80 cents.
And why was that it got increased more than needed? Because that's normally not the council's intention to increase fees more than needed.
It was an accounting error. I don't know how else to say that.
So it was attorney math?
It was not attorney math. I don't know.
Okay, errors happen.
It wasn't wrong, it was an error.
It was
I think
an
is what you're
error.
saying.
Yeah.
Because attorney math is wrong. right?
Oh,
Well, things happen, so thank you, just curious.
yeah.
Thank you.
So that would make the total increase from $18.07 to $18.87. So in the stormwater fund, the operating budget is 1.1 million. Our capital project budget is 240,000, to replace a mower, some bubble boxes and a dry pad. And I'm not quite sure what a dry pad means. I don't know if John wants to step in.
It's
I understand it, but I don't understand it.
when dirt and other things come out of the ground that are wet, we have to set them on a concrete, and then the water will leach out and go into the sewer system as opposed to into the storm system. So it's a stormwater protection measure.
So that we use from our equipment, right?
Yeah, when we have
talk about
water leaks and the leaf truck and other things like that, yeah.
Thank you. And then no rate increase proposed in that fund. And then in the solid waste fund, we have a $1.2 million operation fund. And we don't have any capital projects planned for in that fund, but we do have a couple of rate increases proposed, mainly because of their garbage tipping fees are increasing and also the fuel recovery costs. We did just get confirmation this morning that they are increasing it 4% for the tipping or for the garbage pickup. And so that would make our rate go from $12.39 to $12.99.
Is that with the fuel charge? Because John, I thought we signed an agreement that would limit it to 3%. We opted to have the fixed increase instead of tied to CPI.
It was actually the opposite. We went with the 2 to 4 because the previous years we've been at the under 2 range. And so we, instead of 3, it is 4.
But yeah, it's not tied to the CPI. It's within that 2 to 4% range. 4 being the cap.
Yeah, meaning that if,
I mean,
and I
if
think,
CPI went to 7, we're
Yeah.
at 4.
and so CPI went almost to 5% for trash, and then it ended up, so it's a 4% increase to us based on our contract.
Thank you.
So the garbage tipping fees is the Weaver transfer station. So they're two separate vendors that we're talking about here. So the total increase for the utility funds altogether would be $2.40 a month or $28.80 annually. And then also the decision on recycling, which doesn't have to be decided tonight.
Council, if I could make a suggestion for your consideration as we go forward, is I think we're probably a little high on the rate in the storm sewer. Last I checked. We've got quite a fund balance there. I wonder if we ought to look at reducing that to get to an acceptable level that funds that department without continuing to build the balance. And then on the, what's the other one? Not solid waste. Where we've got a fund that's not being used, but we're continuing to eat into it.
Solid waste.
Solid waste. I don't think we need the degree of fund there, but I hate to eat that all away and then put the burden on future residents. So I would suggest maybe we modify that a little bit as we go forward. Maybe offset some of this increase with solid waste fund.
So that's the budget in a nutshell. John, if you want to bring up the what's included spreadsheet. So these are just, this is just a quick snapshot of what it would look like to cover the deficit that we have in the general fund for property tax. The 12% would be, includes the first 7% that we have to cover the deficit of the 73,000. But if you go all the way to the right, John, we get clear to about 24.5% in order to include all of the unfunded depreciation of the 308 deficit. And that does include the first 7,000 or 7%. So it is an additional 18% we would have to raise property taxes.
That's all I have.
John, do you want to, I know we've talked about this briefly, I don't know if you're prepared to, but a big portion of the budget is keeping competitive and salaries with the employees. Do you want to just maybe briefly talk about that dollar amount and what that means? Now that we've seen some of the other cities breaking out their numbers.
Yes, of course, Mayor. So for salaries, across the city, for salaries and benefits is an increase. It's about $331,000 is what we've planned in the budget. We talked last meeting about increasing that a little bit by 27,000. But our neighbor to the south was in the newspaper because our increase is about 6.5%. As an average. Not every person would get that, but it's still kind of that targeted increase that the council's focused on matching the position to the pay and what market's paying. But there would be a cap on increases at 10%. But our neighbor to the south did a 14% increase for firefighters, 13% for all staff, and then an 8% for uniformed officers. And I think the 8% is partly because they had already done some movement to get the officers. But if we did that in our city, at the 13% across the board, it would be about a $771,000 cost to the city, with about 600 and some odd coming from general fund and 170 coming from enterprise. Depending on who you talk to, Ogden was behind on things. And the city also offers some things that others around us don't offer. But then if you look at like healthcare benefits, some cities offer things we don't. So it's really hard to really dial in a good number. I know Jamie ran some numbers on turnover, and granted, there's been retirements and people leaving for their own business or for other positions. But since in the same time frame, we lost 18% of our turnover, and Ogden's number was 26, something like that. But so we do see it also at a high turnover rate. Some of that we think we might have corrected with some of the salary adjustments in specific departments. Some of that's retirement that doesn't go away. People earn the opportunity to retire, and we're glad they can. But so we do have probably what most people would say is a higher than desirable turnover rate, but it's hard to gauge because we're looking at 12 months, and council, you've done some things in the past 4 months that have helped to adjust that. So
Any comments further on that? Having become somewhat familiar with the budget, some of the things that may need adjustments or modifications, and in consultation with Councilmember Swanson, if I was a betting man, I would say to get this budget in balance where it needs to be and not kick things down the road that just causes us to deal with it later. I would say we'd probably be leaning towards maintaining the rate that we currently have, and recovering additional property taxes because of the appreciation in homes, which I would estimate, not that I like taxes. I own several homes for my kids and mine, and so as Councilmember Swanson said, we all pay it. But if I was a betting man, I would say when we come to the final budget meeting, that would probably be the highest probability result. So I'm just trying to be transparent in that regard. And I think Councilman Swanson, we're estimating appreciated values to be close to 20%.
Yeah, that's what it seems like it's gonna come out to be,
But we won't know until June 8th.
just a little before June 8th, right?
After that date, and we get the information from the county. So that'll, if you have any other ideas or suggestions, we're open for that, but in the spirit of transparency, that's where I see things kind of leaning. Mr. Call?
So one thing that Jamie highlighted, and I want to highlight it again for the group as well as for those who are here to participate. This is the tentative budget. It's not the final budget. And, even yesterday morning, the mayor and Jamie and I were sitting talking about other solutions, other cuts, other ways to make things work. And so it's not by any means done. We have things that we probably will be talking about tonight if you'd like to, or in future meetings. We just have to have something final if you do a truth and taxation by August, but we want to have it as dialed in as we can by the beginning of June to help guide us until August, if that makes sense. So it's, keep working. We're all working. The department heads are working. And the mayor is really working. So
We use the term modify.
Modify.
We're talking about modify. But I hope the public understands the situation that most all of you are facing if you're in the workplace. Finding people is very difficult, and finding quality people is even more difficult. I'm a believer that keeping those quality employees you have is much more valuable than trying to hire someone and starting over. So I don't think it's been any secret that this council is in agreement that in addition to keeping this a safe place to live with public safety, is making sure we're competitive with our team. And frankly, that may result in additional amendments in the budget going forward, because we just don't know where everything's heading. But we want to start out making sure that we're being fair with our employees. We don't want to be, the top of the ring, but we want to be fair. So, okay. Any other questions from the council or comments? Jamie, anything? I want to thank you for your diligent efforts. You put in a lot of work, and I know this is a process that we kind of changed, and it'll get refined as we learn more and work together. It'll get better year after year. So don't get discouraged. We're all learning together. All right. With that, I would open the public hearing to discuss the fiscal year 2023 North Ogden City budget. So the public hearing is now open. For those of you who would like to comment, once again, I would invite you come to the podium and state your name. If you're a resident of North Ogden, and I'd also invite staff if they have comments to help the public understand what their position is in this budget. They're also welcome to comment at this time. So with that, public hearing is open.
I just have a question. I know there was a letter in the North Ogden from the mayor and the mayor's corner, which is extremely true. A few months ago, there was something that said that North Ogden taxes are sky high, but this person was probably looking at his total tax bill. Now, last time I looked at my tax bill, the North Ogden city tax was $160. And the school tax was like over $500. So the school tax goes up so much because somebody who's a relative of mine, I'm not going to say, and I'm not against ethnic people or anything. And she told me, this person had been a nurse for 30 years. And she told me that the reason the school tax in Ogden goes up, Weber County goes up, is there's so many illegal aliens, which could be true or not. Now, I want to ask somebody, who could tell me about the storm sewer fee, which I think is either $10.10 or $10.30 a month. That's not a big deal. But what I wanted to ask is that fee, that's for the machine that goes along and sweeps the gutters, like the street cleaner machine. And another thing I would like to ask is the grate where the water actually goes along the concrete and down into the grate. In the 31.5 years I've lived here, you know, I only see with one eye since 2006, but I've never seen anybody lift up those grates and clean what's underneath them so that when the water does go down the drain, it's not blocked by stuff. That's all.
Dave, would you like to tell us about how it works? Well, maybe it doesn't. You could explain how that works. It's really pretty cool.
Public, do you have any suggestions on our budget of areas that could be modified or any questions? Now would be your time.
John Arrington, 254 East 2900 North. I can look at some more detail with Amy later, but I just, looking briefly, this had some questions. Charges for services on zoning and plan and check fees. Is that because you anticipate more, or is there a rate increase in that?
We're anticipating more, yes, we're anticipating more projects.
Okay, I mean, the comment I have on that is if we're gonna spend more for plan checking fees, that maybe we ought to look at increasing the fee to cover the process of checking them. Not just absorb it generally in the fee, but those specifically receiving service would cost them a little bit more. And then I noticed that there's a new budget for Recorder and Human Services. Where was that prior?
That was in administration.
Okay.
So administration used to be about 8% of the budget.
Okay, yeah. So administration salaries went down 25,000.
But we've added, so we've kind of done a, like the treasurer used to be under finance, now the treasurer's under administration. And then we've added, like, so there's been kind of some staff shuffle between finance, admin, HR, and recorder's office.
Jack, you could get with Amy to see
yeah.
that, but the reason we've done this was, I think, Mr. Call's idea, which is a good idea. You know, to have accountability and more transparency, so the citizens could see. We're trying to get people in the rights.
Yeah, and I agree with the division. I'm just looking at this surface wise, but the cost went up more than the cost went down. So, yeah, this spring, as long as it's a tentative budget, you can think about things. I just thought I'd bring that part out. Thanks.
Done a few budgets throughout the city in your days, I think, Jack, haven't you?
Yes. That's why I know these questions to ask.
That used to be the controller there. Anyone else? John, anyone online? Just comment?
No raised hands.
Okay, at this point in time, then I would be looking for a motion to close the public hearing. Do you have a motion? We have a second to Councilmember Ekstrom's motion.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion to close the public hearing. Any further discussion, council, or questions? If not, all those in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, then at this point in time, Council, I would be looking for an action to approve ordinance 2022-11, which would approve the tentative fiscal year 2023 budget. We have a motion.
Mayor,
Councilman Barker,
make a motion, we approve ordinance 2022-11, the approving the fiscal year budget for fiscal year 2023.
you had tentative budget. in there.
Tentative, yep, the tentative fiscal year budget.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Barker to approve ordinance 2022-11, which would be for the purpose of approving North Ogden City's tentative budget. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Ekstrom. Any further discussion or questions on the proposed tentative budget? Councilmember Dalpas, please.
I just wanted to make sure we had this figured out. I know this is just tentative, but we mentioned this last time we talked. The Loman View Park versus the Wadman Park. I noticed that Loman View is still in the budget. I just wanted to make sure what the plan is.
Well, those will be, discussions will take that between now and the final budget. There are some things that need to be modified that are currently in the budget. But Jamie, let me just ask you this question. The budget you have proposed has a $73,000 deficit, correct? Which is not legal to pass. So council, I would need to find some additional revenues here to make sure we have a balanced budget. And I think Jamie showed where that could possibly take place. John, you may want to, you're already back to that budget. So just to cover the tentative 73,000, Amy, what's your recommendation?
So the recommendation was to take it from the original $500,000 transfer to capital projects down to 427 to cover that shortfall until we just till the final budget to balance it.
Council? Any further
Wouldn't that
discussion?
require an amended motion?
Yes, sir, but
You set me up to fail.
no, I just remembered that myself.
Okay.
No, I'd never do that to you, Council.
He's using broadheads on you.
Yeah, okay.
I would never do that. Okay, would you like to amend your
Sure.
motion?
I make a motion, we amend my motion for ordinance 2022-11 as presented by Jamie. I'm not gonna get that, I'm not gonna get all that
To
language
reduce
right.
the transfer from the general fund to the capital projects fund
Yep.
by the $73,000.
Correct, as you
Is that
just
what you
stated.
meant to say?
That's what I meant to say.
All right. Do we have a second to that amended motion?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Ekstrom. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Councilmember Dalpas,
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson,
Yes.
Councilmember Barker,
Yes.
Councilmember Severing,
Yes.
and Councilmember Ekstrom.
Yes.
The motion passes by unanimous vote. So council, as you can see, we still have some work to do, as pointed out by Councilmember Dalpas. And we will continue working in that direction. At this point in time, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting and convene the RDA meeting. So council, do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting and convene in the RDA?
I motion that we adjourn this meeting and convene in the RDA meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember Dalpas. Do we have a second to that motion?
I second that.
Okay, second by Councilmember Severing. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor of the motion, please so state.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. So we now are adjourned from our regular council meeting, and we are convened in the RDA meeting. This council also serves as the board, is that the proper term, John, of the redevelopment agency? We also have a necessity to approve that budget. So Jamie, would you like to give us some insight on the fiscal year 23 redevelopment agency budget?
Here, thank you. So for the tax rate, same theory applies as for the general fund. For the RDA, we're looking at property tax revenues of about 805. And in the CDA fund, we're looking at about 110. And then we are including a general fund transfer to the RDA fund for the North Ogden Plaza project. That is also part of a WFRC grant for $100,000. And then as far as expenditures for the RDA fund, again, that North Ogden Plaza project there, we're looking at some spending some funds for city rebranding, transferring general fund money, or transferring to the general fund in support of watering the flowers. And then also another WFRC project of $15,000. Transfer to the aquatic center of $180,000. And again, this is just a budget, it's just if it's needed. And then for the CDA, we're just having funds, just holding funds as a balance reserve, and then also reserving to 5% for the fund balance deficit.
Anything else, Jamie? I would, as Jamie mentioned, I would remind you that this is also a tentative budget. Subject to change. There's items of discussion in here that we've had previously and are ongoing. But in the spirit of meeting the required balanced budget, you've seen the proposal. Any other comments before I open the meeting to a public hearing? Mr. Call?
Council, most of you have not seen this 50,000 for rebranding efforts. It was a request from the EDC. They are going to present to you in June what that is, what they're talking about. They know that that is a lot of money, but it just is something that they would like to talk about. So we told them we would include it, knowing that they would have to show the plan and convince the council that that was a good use of money. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that more information will come to you in the future.
Once you get into council, you see the amount of work we still have left to do in regards to these budgets. Just a reminder to the public and those who would be listening in, the tax money that comes in to the RDA is from businesses in the city, not from citizens' taxpayer money. Would that be a correct statement, John?
Yes, that is correct.
So, and the purpose of that is to generate additional business in the city, which we need to strongly consider to get the balance between sales tax and property tax in one. So, any questions? Councilmember Swanson.
Not so much a question, just to let the general public know that's here and those that might be listening. The watering of flowers is something that is heavy on our minds this year, where it hasn't been so much in the past. We are looking at options that would still keep Washington looking beautiful, but might not be so labor intensive and water intensive. So just, it's something that we're talking about.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mayor, can we get kind of a
Number
brief,
7? Go ahead.
yeah, can we just get kind of a brief North Ogden Plaza project, what are we thinking there?
Well, basically, we received a grant from WFRC to look at that area in our city. As you know, we have to make a decision on the use of RDA funds, have a plan in place I believe it's is it by the end of 23 or 24, Mr. Call?
23.
23, which is rapidly approaching. So that's grant money that's coming in. I think we have to match, was it 10,000, John?
Yes.
Of that, but that will be a study to see what can be done in that area, we call it Southtown area. Not necessarily, I don't think just that plaza, but the Southtown area, to see what we can do to revitalize that in an attempt to generate more business into the city. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Anything else? All right, then I would open this meeting to a public hearing to address the RDA fiscal year 2023 budget. So anyone online or here in the audience that has questions or would like to make comments, now would be the time to do so. Anyone online, John?
Not at this time. I mean, there are people there, no raised hands.
All right. Okay, I see no comments. So council, I'd be looking for a motion to close the public hearing regarding the RDA.
So moved.
Thank you, Board Member Swanson. We have a second.
Second.
Go ahead, JD. Thank you.
JD.
Your turn.
Thank you, Board Member Dalpaz. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, I would look for a vote by the council to close the public hearing. All those in favor of closing, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, that would entail then, my error on this. We also need a motion now in regard to our ordinance RDA 2022-12. This would be a motion then to approve the tentative RDA fiscal year 23 budget. We have a motion to approve that ordinance 2022-12.
Mayor, I move that.
Oh,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Mayor, I move that we approve RDA ordinance 2022-12, approving the RDA fiscal year tentative budget for 2022-2023.
Okay, Councilmember Severing has motion to approve that ordinance. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Barker. We have a motion, Councilmember Severing, second by Councilmember Barker. Is there any further discussion? All right, with that, we'll do a roll call vote since this is approving an ordinance. We'll start with you, Councilmember Ekstrom.
Yes.
Councilmember Severing.
Yes.
Councilmember Barker.
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson.
Yes.
And Councilmember Dalpaz.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously. So at this point in time, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn the RDA board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I move that we adjourn the RDA meeting and reconvene at regular city council.
All right, we have a motion to close the RDA board meeting.
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Swanson. Any comments or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, then all in favor of adjourning the RDA meeting and reconvening our city council meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, we will now hear from Mr. John Call, our city manager and attorney. We'll follow up on an action regarding the consolidated fee schedule. I think last time we addressed this, we had a discussion and deferred this particular item. So John, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is coming back to you as it was originally proposed, council. I had tried to work on some language to exclude make it clear that residents are not gonna get penalized, they'll get their warnings. In the process and discussing it with the building inspectors, no one gets a penalty unless they've already been told, meaning everyone gets a warning up front. And so if you want, we can include that, basically saying that the first offense would essentially be after warning, so there'd be no penalty for the first warning. And then after that, it would turn into offenses. There still was a question about the amount on whether 250 was enough as a deterrent. The nice thing is the way that it would, or the way that it typically works and the way it's written right now, is if a contractor had received a written warning on another project and then came in and did the same thing again, they would already have been considered to have had their warning. And so this language would not complicate that interaction with the contractor. And same for a resident, we do have people who are building things without building permits, and we routinely catch them and talk to them and remind them they need to come in and get permits. Most of them don't know. I think we talked about some of the things that people don't get permits for because they don't know, but there's a lot of them who know they should get them and don't. So what direction, council, do you have, or are you ready to accept this?
John, just a clarification. So if it's a commercial builder, along with that warning would be a red tag on the project till they actually got the permit?
Yeah, so they would say you need to stop work and come get the permit. Most of those who are the offenders are mechanical. So that's, although we don't get as many plumbers and heat HVAC contractors doing that anymore because there's a lot of liability tied up in those appliances. But roofers are probably the most offending group right now. Not that they're bad people.
All right, so thank you, John. And I don't know if you've read my message yet, but I did mention that in the Connection magazine that we've had some inquiries about that. Just a reminder for the public. So you've heard Mr. Call's presentation regarding this item. Council, do you have any questions or comments? Councilmember Dalpas?
I think it's good as is. I don't want to put anything about a warning there. I mean, we know that we're gonna give them a warning, but I think it's better to just have it as is, so people know that we're serious, but we know that we'll provide that if needed. And then just one other thought, since it's right there, the plan check, to what Mr. Arrington was saying, that would be the place to make up that disparity in the revenue, right? Is it right in that? Is that correct, John, in that single family residential plan check?
Actually, I think the one Mr. Arrington referred it was in the planning and zoning plan checks. They sound the same, and in some ways they end up in the same pot.
Okay.
But that's where we would address it. I think it's below. Maybe it's above.
John, while you're looking at, I believe that we have a bit of a study to do based upon kind of the state auditor's approach on all these building fees and plan checks and all those things. If we believe that to be the case, Councilman Dalpas will have some studying to do to make sure that we are properly charging for services provided and properly allocating the costs so that we comply with the state auditors. So probably some additional things to stay tuned on there, but good point.
And so that is in this area. The planning department has its own set of fees. These were revised, I think, 3 years ago, based on an analysis that Rob and his team undertook. But with what the mayor said and the way the auditor's approaching things, some of the expenses that we've seen that fall under a planning side of things are being covered by the building permit side of things. And we need to hash this out. And I think Councilman Dalpas, if you'll work with me and Scott, I think we can come back with the council with a good proposal to catch that up.
Sounds good.
Okay. Councilman Barker.
Just a comment, as a person that's been employed by a roofer for a long time, as we know which cities require building permits, and those cities actually, we charge those residents more. So this is just a fee we're pushing onto our citizens, is contractors don't eat the fees. So we're gonna charge our citizens more to do the same job if they were in another city. And then also, who's gonna be doing all the inspections, because our inspectors are pretty busy. And on weekends, when a lot of roofers do their work. Are we gonna send our contractor or inspectors out on the weekends?
And your points.
I'm not going out. I don't get on roofs anymore.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's a schedule for those who fall off the roof.
Yeah, the ER charges a lot. Remember last week, I hit my deductible.
There you go. And your point is, it's the same with any fee, whether it's a building permit, plan check fee. Those all basically become the cost of the consumer. That's why I've always believed corporations don't really pay tax. They just push it on to consumer. But, you know, having recently paid for a building permit in the city, it's not cheap, that's for sure. Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, I believe this involves resolution 6-2022. Joyce, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So council, I'd be looking for a motion then to approve resolution 06-2022, amending the consolidated fee schedule as outlined on the screen. You have a motion?
Mayor, I move that we approve resolution 06-2022, amending the consolidated fee schedule as outlined.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Barker. Councilor, I was just wondering if there's any specific name you want to assign to this fee? Seeing none. We'll have a.
Wasn't it the Thor? The hammer of Thor or whatever that is?
My grandfather was.
Something of that nature.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
So I would be looking then to take a roll call vote on this motion, since it's a resolution. Start with you, Councilmember Barker.
Yes.
Councilmember Swanson,
Yes.
Councilmember Ekstrom,
Yes.
Councilmember Severing,
Yes.
and Councilmember Dowpass.
Yes.
By my count, that is unanimous approval of the resolution. Motion approving resolution 06-2022. We'll now hear from Bryce Nelson, who's our administrative services manager and treasurer. And he'd like to talk to us about considering a collection policy. So Bryce.
Thank you, Mayor. Hopefully y'all got a chance to look at it. The policy would just basically put out our procedures for collections for revenues of utility funds of people who have terminated accounts and have since moved. This is basically would hopefully protect us if anyone ever came back and asked you why did you send me to collections or anything like that. And so in the process, so when they terminate their account, we send them a notice with their final bill. 14 days after that, we add $10 as a late fee. And then we send 45 days after that, we send them another notice. And what this policy would then do is 30 days following the final notice, we would then send them to a collection agency and stop pursuing it ourselves and turn them over to them. So this would help us it does help us to get that money that is owed to the city without, limiting what resources we're going to spend on trying to acquire that.
Bryce, could you just maybe expand on how the notification of delinquency will take place?
Yes, so it is mailed We mail it out. Well, we mail it out, we email, we call. We try all three in hopes to get a hold of them, which is why we always ask, updated information on your account. Or when you come in to terminate, we do ask for a forwarding address. So if anything like this happens, we can get a hold of you. But we do attempt all three methods.
I was just wondering if we should be sending that registered mail, since it could end up in collections, which can have quite a detrimental effect.
Okay.
You hear the excuse oftentimes, nobody notified me.
Yeah.
This way we would have evidence of notification. Mr. Call, I don't know what your take is on that from a legal standpoint, but sending someone to collections is a serious matter. I just want to make sure that we give them verified notification.
I think that's good. What I would recommend, council, is that we require that notification as of both of them. What we find oftentimes is those individuals, there are certain individuals who never will sign a registered letter, and they come back. And so not requiring that as the official notice, but doing that as essentially a supplemental notice, then that allows us to still send the one that they'll get. And those who reject it will still reject it. But
We can only do so much, right? But I just want to make sure that we've done that. So
I think that's a good idea, Mayor.
Okay, and I'll definitely change that in there. I agree. I think that's a great addition.
So, any other comments? With that suggestion that anyone's objecting to, could we have a motion then to approve the collection policy as presented to us by Mr. Nelson?
Mayor,
Councilman Swanson.
I'll move that we approve the collection policy as presented to us by Bryce Nelson.
Thank you, Councilmember Swanson. Do we have a second to that motion?
I second.
Councilmember Severing has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the collection policy, please say aye.
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 I see no objections, so we'll say that motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you for your efforts on that. We'll now move on to council department reports. We'll start with you, Councilmember Severing. If you have anything you would like to inform the council and the public about regarding our police department.
Yes, the best police chief in the entire world, Chief Quinny, wanted me to mention that they are actually going to be participating in the special needs Olympics on May 19th. Torch run, the actual torch run. Awesome. And also that they had recertification for tasing last week. And then last but not least, he wanted me to just read, I'd prefer to read this. He indicated that currently we're discovering counterfeit fentanyl in our community in the form of pills and mixed in with other illicit drugs in lethal doses. So the police department did post an article with information in this month's Connection magazine, and it's also posted on the Facebook police department's Facebook page. So please be careful. That's all.
Did you have something to add, Councilmember Barker?
I put my hand down.
Okay. I would add, some of you may have seen this, but Chief informed us, I think it was Sunday morning, I received the email from the chief where members of the department were involved in an attempted murder, attempted homicide, I guess is the proper term, that resulted in severe injury that looks like will be recovering, but the perpetrator ended up taking their own life up in Box Elder County. So, our police department is involved in some fairly significant things. We've had, unfortunately, some instances where people have taken their own life, and those aren't, I'm sure, pleasant things that our officers face, but I just hope we all recognize the fact that we have an excellent police department led by a great chief, and that things in our community do happen. And they're properly trained and handle those with professionalism and compassion. So please pass on our thanks, Chief, to the officers.
Well, thank you.
We'll now hear from Council Member Ekstrom. You have some things you'd like to report about public works that the council needs to know and the public may be interested in.
I sure do. Kudos to our top-notch Public Works Department as well. Most fabulous Public Works Director, Mr. David Espinoza.
You know why that's the case, don't you?
Why he's awesome?
Yeah.
Well,
It
I
can't be
spent
because
some
he's a
time-
Scot.
You know why.
Well, I know why I think so.
Well, no, he went to Belleville High School,
Oh,
so
it's those Scots.
it's the Scotties.
We'll take it. Very good. So we are in the middle of the spring cleanup at the green waste pit. So hopefully all of the residents are taking advantage of that. It's a wonderful opportunity to get stuff cleared out of your yards and houses. And it's free until Saturday at the green waste pit. They're also almost done taking down the 2 houses, getting ready for our new public safety building. We're quite excited about that. The one by the police department and the other is on 2850. So fantastic. And the Fruitland Drive water line will begin early in June. So we're going to be having some road closures there to get that straightened out, which I'm quite excited about, even though I'm going to have to go around the other way because I drive through the intersection multiple times a day. But I'm very much looking forward to that getting fixed. And that's it for Public Works.
Could I ask maybe you along with Dave? We've had some comments, we're getting close to that time of year where we have to dispose of all the waste in the green pit via a burn. And we've received, I think, comments from several residents with legitimate concerns, I would say. I know the fire marshal has been helpful in helping me understand how that goes about. Dave, you just want to give us a brief update so people know kind of what's going on, what the intentions are, and maybe a time frame.
So like Councilwoman Ekstrom said, that we are gonna stop the green waste cleanup or the cleanup on Saturday. So the plan is, it'll either be next week or the following week was when we will burn. Like you said, there's some regulations to us burning. We have to put a permit into the state to do those permissions. We only have through the end of May to do that, because then at that point it gets too dry, you know, that we have to worry about other other things. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. We're looking at the first of next week, or the middle of next week or the following week, the first of the week there before we burn. We will definitely make sure when we, get those dates put in line, we'll get it advertised. We'll let all the residents, it's hard to be able to knock on everybody's door, but we make sure that everybody that's right next to the pit there, we actually go and actually physically knock on doors and talk to everyone there. Make sure that they're aware that we're gonna do this as well.
Really, at this point in time, we have limited options. We don't have access to a chipper and things of that nature, so.
Yeah, the cost of chipping, is extensive. I've shared that with you guys. To do that pile, we're upwards of $60,000 depending on, who we get in and how we get it chipped. And then at that point, we're still stuck with all the chips, because it's not like chips that you buy at, Lowe's or Home Depot. Those are, they're treated and those kind of things. And so this still has weeds and all that. And so we get stuck with those piles for years. The last time we chipped, we held on to those piles. We actually still have some of that pile there, but we hold on to it for years. So.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Just wanted to make sure the council understood, because they will get some calls, I'm sure, of the timing and the effort you're putting in. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this point in time, then we will proceed to item number 11 on our agenda, which is public comments, that would be the time to express any concerns you have about the discussion this evening, or feel free to ask any questions. Don, anyone online?
No raised hands.
All right, we have a gentleman here that will make it.
Hi. My name is Curtis Peters. I live on North Lakeview. And so kudos to the police department. I appreciate you guys. We enjoy living in North Ogden. And when we moved from a different place, they did not even do a Weber County search to find us and had a collection. So please do your due diligence. This is general comment.
Yes, sir.
And everything. Okay. You know, there's a lot of construction going up at the end of Lakeview. I mean, a lot. And our area is where sorry, 3650 drops off into the steepest hill in probably North Ogden. And it's turned into the Audubon, and people fly literally down there. And I stand up with a sign that says 30 miles an hour with a little orange cone that says, please slow down, my granddaughter stays with us. So my question is, sorry, is it possible to get one of those electronic signs that meters the speed limit? Even the temporary one would be very helpful. Or up on 4,000 and 4050 in the neighborhoods up there, there's several of those solar powered flashing. You're going over the speed limit. I'm not sure how to request that, except to say, you can put one in my front yard, please, because it's just getting out of hand. And I know that the police department has been doing a very good job, especially from 3100 South. I see the lights all the time. If we can get more police presence and a constant notification that people are going too fast in that area, I'd appreciate that.
I saw the chief write down that we do have, I think, 2 mobile units now that are both working that indicate speed. So you got the right guy here.
Okay, great.
To hopefully help your concern.
I do appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your interest in attending our meeting this evening. What else? All right, we'll go on to our next item then. If there's no one online, John, let's go on to our comments. Council, do you have any comments? Councilmember Swanson?
2 quick ones. I had a resident reach out to me and report that he had been told by a couple of residents that those residents approached North Ogden City with private financing for pickleball courts and were turned away. Anybody know anything about that? I can't imagine that we would turn away.
I had a group reach out to me, and I had, there was another group that was looking at getting the ones done up at Parker Park. And so I told them to connect with that group.
Okay.
And then I later found out that individual took their money to Pleasant View.
Right. Okay, we're talking about the same. Okay.
And so, but I thought that we had allowed, or I pointed them in the right direction because there was some momentum with that.
That just allows me to report back to that resident what happened. That's fine. Thank you.
Although I think Councilmember Swanson, I would probably get more comments about the lack of pickleball courts in our community from senior citizens. And
This resident reminded me that Pleasant View has 6 and is about to build 8 more. They have 4.
And they're building 9.
And they're building 9. So the numbers worked out the same, but
close.
I think I had a call from the same
yeah.
citizen.
Okay. The other is just a general reminder to those listening and those here that the North Ogden Pass will be closed both directions from June 6th to July 1st for much needed repairs and barriers and some quite a few millions of dollars that are going to be spent by the county and state and feds up there doing some great things, but it will be completely closed pedestrian traffic, bicycle traffic, vehicular traffic. So you'll need to find another way around as summer gets rolling to get over to what's left of our lake over there.
What was the dates again?
June 6th through July 1st. And there's a good possibility that it will open early, but those are the dates that they're planning on.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Anything else? Councilmember Summary?
Yes, Mayor, I just want to report back to the council at the approval of the mayor and as well with Councilwoman Ekstrom. I have met with Casey Hunsaker. Emergency preparedness is kind of an area of my interest. So Casey Hunsaker and I met last week and we're doing an inventory of emergency kinds of supplies that the city is looking, that the city currently has. And we're going to work on maybe getting some more additional emergency supplies in the city that can complement the efforts of the citizens. So
thank you, Blake.
just want to report that.
Mayor had to step out for a minute, so as Mayor Pro Tem will take over for a couple of moments here. Councilwoman Extra, anything?
No.
Councilmember Barker.
Yep, just one thing to go along with what Dave was saying with our green waste burn. The reason it's so hard to give definite dates is we have to find 3 days in a row that the clearing index is above 500 so that the smoke goes up and doesn't stay down. And you don't know that until about the day before. So so it's hard to schedule 3 days where we know it'll be good. So but we are working on it. And I mean, I've talked with the DEQ and the state and everyone, and we're doing what we're supposed to.
Great, thank you. Just quickly, David, on that note, could you get us a new estimate on what it would cost to chip and all those kinds of things, just so that we can give that information to residents?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Delphas.
I was just gonna mention to Dave, with that burn coming up, we have a lot of new homes that are right in that area. So it may be worth, if it's not gonna be too much work, to do one more sweep along that road that's to the west of there, because they will likely be calling us, asking us questions, so that might be worth your time.
Okay, Mayor, it's back to you.
Thank you, Councilmember Swanson. I just have a couple of comments for the council to consider. As you look through the budget, you will see that the city has become somewhat reliant on what I would call
volatile.
Maybe volatile fees. We've had a lot of building in the city. Sales tax has risen quite heavily. As Councilmember Swanson said the other day, there's probably more uncertainty in the economy now than even during the pandemic. How will people get money to deal with inflation? Our major purchases going down. So I would just offer up, as you look through the budget, I think it could be a little bit concerning that we put too much reliance on fees that we have no control over. I think, you've probably seen the same emails, I have seen from citizens, and I appreciate those of you who've responded back to those emails, so citizens know that we have heard them and that we are looking into trying to resolve those issues. In my message this month in the Connection magazine, I tried to outline some of those concerns and perhaps what our response may be. We get a lot of questions on flip your strip situation, water conservation, those things. And so I think we need to continue to make sure we're modifying our ordinances. And my son was telling me the other day that he received a notice that said, lives in far west, but if you have a swimming pool, you're not allowed to fill it this year. So there's some serious things going on. We've seen water situation.
We just need to make sure we can continue to encourage, I think, saving water as much as we can, so. All right, Mr. Call, do you have anything to add tonight, or any of our department heads who are here that would like to speak?
I just have two things, Mayor. First one is, Councilman Swanson made me aware that Plain City is now allowing individuals to live in RVs up to 9 months in Plain City. And we currently don't allow that. So, and this ties into my second comment, and that is, if you see or hear of issues in the city, things that need to be taken care of, particularly those that are dealing with code enforcement, the best thing you can do is encourage the individual who has the concern to call dispatch, non-emergency dispatch, and report it, because that gets it into the police system the right way, as opposed to expecting you to send it to the police and the follow-up. It just makes it problematic on your end as well as on code enforcement's end, because it's hard for them to track those. So if you do get those, then please, that's the best way to route any of those things that are code enforcement and or police related. Obviously, it's an emergency, call 911. So, but those are the two things I have, Mayor.
Okay, just one other thing I would mention before we seek adjournment. And I know Tiffany's here with us this evening. I just want the public to understand the situation we're in there. I received some comments regarding why the grass is long and untrimmed. We are having a very, very difficult time finding seasonal workers to mow the lawns and take care of the parks. So it's a difficult situation right now. Like I said earlier, those of you who are involved in business right now, it's difficult to find people. And when you can find them, the wages are fairly substantial there. So we're doing the best we can. I was asking Tiffany how often we're going to mow the lawns, and she said, well, I'll have to make that decision, because right now we don't even have enough people to mow them once a month, I think was the response. So we are trying to do our best there. So I just want the public to be aware of that. And as I responded, some of the citizens were looking for help. So if you're willing to volunteer, we can use your help. Even Councilmember Swanson, I just want to tell you how desperate we are. We're going to allow him to even mow some parks. And so I think that itself makes a statement of how desperate we are.
You know what? That big riding mower is a hoot.
I've been on it, but I've seen how you drive a Jeep too, so.
Well, go look at the lines at Mountain View Park. They're pretty straight.
All in the eye of the beholder. All right, any other staff comments tonight? Once again, we appreciate the citizens who have joined us tonight. Want you to know you're always welcome. And we appreciate your comments. So with that, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Councilmember Ekstrom?
Second.